The sky was painted in bruised shades of gray. The sound of rain hitting the tin roof echoed through the narrow valley. Armand stood at the edge of the broken bridge, staring at the water below. His reflection wavered in the restless river, a young man torn between holding on and letting go. Behind him, his father's old bicycle leaned against a tree, rusted, forgotten. It had been his father's pride once, before the accident. Armand had stopped riding it after that day. He could still hear his father's voice say, "Better, life doesn't stop when storms come. You just have to keep pedaling." But the storm had come, and it had stayed too long. He returned home drenched. The house smelled like wet earth and silence. His mother sat near the stove, boiling tea she wouldn't drink. She had learned to survive by keeping busy. Armand had learned to suffer quietly. Sometimes he wondered if time was healing her, or just teaching her to forget. Days turned into weeks. Armand stopped meeting people, stopped answering messages. The world outside moved on without him. He had lost his job recently, the last piece of his father's dream for him. He felt like he was running in circles inside a maze built of his own failures. One evening, the power went out. Candlelight flickered across the wall, and Armand noticed something on the shelf. An old notebook. His father's handwriting filled the pages. Small quotes, little life lessons, written like quiet prayers. The last line read, "Patience is not waiting, it's trusting." Something shifted inside him that night. He sat for hours rereading the words. The storm outside still raged, but it no longer felt like an enemy. He whispered softly, "I'll trust time, Dad. I'll try." And for the first time in months, he felt his breath steady. The next morning, he repaired the old bicycle. The chain was rusted, tires deflated, but he cleaned it carefully, as if restoring a piece of himself. When he rode down the muddy road, his clothes got soaked, but he didn't care. He could almost hear his father's laughter echoing with the wind. Weeks passed. He started applying for jobs again, though rejection letters filled his inbox. Each no hurt, but each one also made him stronger. His mother noticed the quiet fire returning to his eyes. Sometimes, she'd smile when he wasn't looking. One morning, while cycling through the market, he saw a little boy trying to sell paper boats in the rain. The boy's voice was shaky, but brave. Something inside Armand melted. He bought one, holding it gently as he rode home, a fragile symbol of persistence. At home, he placed the paper boat near the window. Outside, thunder roared, lightning flashed. But the boat stayed still, floating in the small puddle of rainwater that had gathered on the sill. Armand smiled. "Even small things survive storms," he whispered. Slowly, life began to return. The rain stopped one morning. Birds filled the air with sound again. The town that had seemed lifeless began to breathe. And with the first sunlight after the storm, Armand felt something he hadn't in months. Gratitude. He took the bicycle to the nearby hills, his father's favorite place. The air smelled of wet grass and fresh beginnings. He sat there for a long time, talking to the wind as if his father were listening. "You were right, Dad. Time really does heal." That evening, he got a call. A small publishing company had read his online article, the one he'd written about patience and loss. They wanted to feature it. For the first time, someone saw value in his pain. He walked into his mother's room, smiling wide. "Ami, they liked my writing." She looked at him quietly for a second, and her eyes glistened. "See, Beta," she said softly, "storms don't destroy. They clean the sky." Months turned into seasons. Armand started writing regularly, stories about people who waited, who fell, who rose again. Each word was a piece of his healing stitched into someone else's hope. He often visited the same bridge, where he once stood ready to give up. The river below was calm now. The broken railing had been repaired by someone, maybe time itself. He leaned against it, smiling faintly. One afternoon, he saw the same boy selling paper boats again. This time, Armand helped him. They laughed, chasing the small boats down the water. The boy said, "Bye, storms are scary nigh." Armand replied, "Yes, but they pass." As he cycled home through golden light, he realized something. Time hadn't erased his pain. It had transformed it. The wound had become wisdom. The silence had become strength. Back home, the old notebook still sat on the shelf. He opened it again, tracing his father's words with steady fingers. This time, he added one line beneath them. "And when you trust time, you trust life itself." That night, the wind was calm. The stars looked clean after the long storm. Armand stood at the window, eyes closed, breathing deeply. He smiled. The storm had passed, both outside and within.